Hi everyone, you're watching White Mountains TV. I'm Chris Prue, and we're about to talk about a new book, 30 Years in a White Haze, Dan Egan's story of worldwide adventure and the evolution of extreme skiing. We are joined remotely by authors Dan Egan, who has appeared in 14 Warren Miller films. In 2001, Powder Magazine named him one of the most influential skiers of our time. And he was inducted into the U.S. Skiing and Snowboarding Hall of Fame in 2016. And co-author Eric Wilbur, who is a skiing and travel writer whose work has appeared in the Boston Globe, New England Ski Journal, and the Boston Metro. Thank you guys for joining us today. Let's start with you, Dan. Give us a little bit of background. What was your inspiration for wanting to write this book?
Well, my brother John and I, we lived the ski bum lifestyle and traveled all around the world. And in the spirit of Warren Miller, we are storytellers. And so we just had so many stories to tell. And I've been wanting to tell them for a very long time. And thanks to Eric, we eventually got this book completed.
And Eric, how did this partnership come about? Did Dan approach you? Did you approach Dan? What was your inspiration for wanting to work on this project?
Well, I've done some stories on the Egans in the past for Boston.com and the Boston Globe. And it always fascinated me, the stories they had to tell. Like there was enough there to tell a fascinating story. So I approached Dan a couple of years ago, and we kind of played phone tag here and there. Yes, let's do this. No, let's do that. Yes, let's do this. And we finally sat down and said, okay, let's do this. And I remember the day that I met with Dan for the first time to kind of go over the focus for this book, really wanting to be a part of it. And remember walking out of the restaurant that day, calling my wife and just saying, I have to write this book because the stories Dan was telling me were so fascinating. And such an emotional life that he's had, and so many great segments of drama and inspiration that I'm really glad that I got to tell the story.
That's fantastic. So for someone who has followed Dan Egan on film and in television, and maybe even experienced some of his extreme skiing and powder clinics firsthand, is there more to the story than that? Because a lot of people feel like maybe they've seen your entire career on video and film.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. This is more than a ski story, right? It's a story about my family of 7 kids growing up in Boston. My mom growing up on the highest hill in Boston and learning to ski in the 40s down the medium strip of Bellevue Parkway in West Roxbury. And really the journey from those humble beginnings all the way to the U.S. Ski and Snowboard Hall of Fame and all the many stops along the way. And the book really explores, what it means to dedicate your life to a passion. And what we say early in the book is skiing almost saved me and killed me.
And Eric, what do you think is going to resonate with readers when they read this book?
I think it's just that, superstar or not, Dan is like all of us, right? He's got his own problems. He's got his own family issues. And I think that writing all about that, really got me close into the action. Like I feel like I know Dan so well right now. He probably doesn't want me to know him that well, but I do. And I just think that it's so relatable, a lot of the things that Dan went through, even though, the regular reader hasn't filmed for Warren Miller dozens of times. I think that they're going to be able to relate to Dan in ways that they never really imagined they could.
Dan, is there a point in time that you can pinpoint where it kind of set you on the path that you went down? And then, because I feel like everybody has that point, and then on top of that, there's another point that maybe changes your perspective of that path that you're walking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that comes with age. In my 20s and 30s, skiing around the world, living the ski bum lifestyle, shooting Warren Miller films all over the planet, and then sort of trying to figure out what the career path was in the mid 90s to now. I think my perspective looks at all the risks I took, the places I went, and saw a lot of those as 20-year-old, 30-year-old decisions. And then now in hindsight, to tie it all together, how it all makes sense. 2 kids from Boston skiing at this level, that itself is like was sort of preordained by just how we got involved with the Boston ski market, the biggest retailer in New England. Worked with them since I was 14. My oldest brother ran one of their stores. And when you look at that as a piece of the puzzle, then things start to make sense.
All right. We are talking with Dan Egan, Eric Wilbur, co-authors of 30 Years in White Haze. And Eric, what was the collaboration like? Because this is not just a chronicle of Dan's exploits. Those have been well documented on feature films on the big screen, but it's some of also the thoughts and the introspection that goes, beyond the jumps off the cliff. And, we see the best parts of everything, but sometimes things don't always go as planned. And I understand those stories are told in this book as well.
Yeah. And I think that's probably the part I'm most proud of, is that, it's not just your typical sports book. It really does dive into Dan's persona, his personality, his emotions. And it was, for me to be able to get a lot of that out of Dan, it makes me feel good in that this is my first go around with the biography. And the fact that I was able to, hopefully, in my mind, I hope, was able to profile Dan so well and bring his voice to the book in a way that was different without him, having it a first person. The book's in a third person narrative. And that's something we juggled around for quite a while, because we weren't sure if we wanted this to be, in Dan's voice, or if Dan wanted the book to have room for others to talk and give their own viewpoints and comments. And so we chose the latter. And I think that really worked out well, because it's a real honest look at Dan's life, and a real compelling look at, what has brought him to this point in his career, and his roots. And it's just really fascinating. And I have not had, of all the projects I've worked on, this is the most fun I've ever had doing anything, because of the fascination with, Dan and his brother and his whole family and the whole skiing community, the history of the sport. All of it combines in this book to give a real good introspective on a man who has dedicated his life to skiing.
That's fantastic. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm excited to read this book, kind of to get some of the behind the scenes of one of the icons of the skiing industry. We've seen so much of him, especially here in the Boston market. Dan, you've had your show on Nesson. We've followed you on TV and film and even in person. So very excited to get the behind the scenes. How do people get the book?
Well, you can go to our website, white-haze.com, and available at Barnes & Noble and Amazon within the next couple of weeks.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your winter.
Right on, Chris.
Great.
Thanks so much.
All right. Dan Egan, Eric Wilbur, co-authors of 30 Years in a White Haze. And you are watching White Mountains TV.